My chest started burning before I saw smoke. 1 minute, I'm knee-deep in black water, checking a game camera. Next minute, every breath tastes like hot pennies. The ground looked wet, normal, but thin gray smoke leaked from between cypress knees like the swamp was exhaling. I shouldn't have been out there alone. I knew that when I left the house. I'd already had it out with my girl at the truck. She didn't do the sweet, worried voice this time. She went straight to pissed. Told me I'm addicted to being out there, and one day I'll come back as a name on a volunteer search post. I told her she was overreacting, called her dramatic, slammed the door, and drove off feeling right, like an idiot. On the drive, I kept replaying it and making myself the victim, like I was the one being attacked for wanting 2 hours to myself. And that stupid self-righteous heat was still in me when I stepped off the trail. The camera was on the far side of a cut, strapped to a cypress where the hog trail narrows. It kept getting bumped, cards missing, angle changed. I've been blaming animals, but last time I found a boot print in the mud, and it wasn't mine. I told myself it was kids, or some other leaseholder, anything normal. I didn't want it to be a person because then I'd have to admit I was sharing that place with someone who didn't give a damn about boundaries. So I went back with fresh batteries and 2 spare SD cards, planning to swap fast and get out before dark. Then that penny taste hit and the air got thick. Not like a campfire, not like somebody burning brush. It smelled sour, like wet dirt cooked too long. I lifted my head, expecting to see an orange glow somewhere down the tree line. Nothing, just smoke coming out of seams in the ground, sliding low over the surface like it had weight. It threaded between cypress knees and roots like it belonged there. I told myself, get out, don't be a hero, and turned to backtrack. My boot punched through the solid mat. It didn't crack like ice, it just gave up. My leg dropped to the thigh in a mud that felt warm through the waders. Not warm like sun, warm like rot. The muck tightened around me, and I went down on my hands, splashing, swearing, trying to push back up. I yanked. The mud held. I yanked again and felt it suck harder, like the ground was alive and irritated. My knee twisted and pain shot on my thigh. I grabbed a root and pulled until the wader leg stretched like it would tear. I ripped free and left the boot behind. I actually reached back for it once, pure reflex, because boots aren't cheap and my brain was still pretending this was a normal problem. My fingers hit that black soup and the heat under it pulsed against my skin, steady and dull, like a radiator hidden under mud. I snatched my hand back and just stared, breathing shallow. When my sock touched down, the warmth came through the fabric, not boiling, just wrong, like standing on an electric blanket you can't shut off. I tried stepping onto a thicker patch, and it sagged. I leaned on a cypress knee instead, and the bark felt warm too. Warm wood in a wet swamp. That snapped something in my head. The smoke started pushing harder, filling the space around my face, and my headlamp turned it into a white wall right in front of me. I tried to stand and walk anyway, and the first full breath I took made my chest seize. I started coughing, and it wouldn't stop. It scraped my throat raw like I'd inhaled grit. I gagged, spit, and the spit came out dark. I remember thinking, I'm really going to die over a fucking trail camera. I slapped my radio, thumbed the button, got nothing but a dead click. No static, no little chirp, just dead. I hit it against my palm, like violence fixes electronics. Still dead. I fumbled my phone out with wet hands. 1 bar flashed, then dropped to none like the place swallowed it. I tried anyway, stabbed 911, watched it spin, then fail. The screen kept misreading my wet thumb and closing the call screen like it was bored of me. I wanted to throw the thing into the mud, but I shoved it back in my pocket and kept moving. I argued with myself right there, stupidly, like there was time. Part of me said sprint, just run for the levee. Don't think, don't look. The other part said, don't you fucking dare stand up in this. You'll punch through again and you won't come back out. I could feel the heat in little pulses now, like I was moving over pockets of it. The smoke wasn't drifting from one direction. It was coming up from everywhere, quiet and steady, like the ground was breathing it out. I pulled my shirt up over my mouth like a mask. It helped for maybe 2 breaths, then it got wet and hot, and I started coughing into it anyway. So I dropped my hands and crawled. Standing made me cough until I gagged, so I stayed low and moved by feel. My palms slid over slick roots and wet bark. I kept my bad leg tucked weird because the knee screamed every time I put weight on it. I kept thinking about the argument at home, about how my last words had been mean, and it made me furious in a way that didn't help. Anger burns oxygen too. The ground kept lying. Every time I thought I had a firm patch, it sagged under me. Sometimes it held, sometimes it sank a few inches with a soft collapse. Each time it did, I pictured that heat down there, patient, eating the muck from underneath. Once my hand punched through up to the wrist, and the water there felt hotter, like I'd found the edge of a stove burner. I yanked my arm out so fast I scraped skin off on a root, and didn't even feel it until later. I tried to use the canal as my line. There's a shallow drainage ditch that runs straighter than anything else back there. If I kept it on my right, I could crawl it back to where the trail turns and the ground firms up. So I felt for it with my fingertips, slid along the bank, and kept moving. My headlamp beam hit smoke and bounced back like I was trapped inside my own flashlight. The battery started fading too, not dying all at once, just shrinking the world inch by inch. That scared me more than the coughing, because darkness out there isn't just dark, it's directionless. I heard little pops under the surface, not loud, just small like bubbles or something settling. Every now and then the mat would sigh and sink somewhere near me with a soft gulp, and I'd freeze, holding my breath like that mattered. Once I heard a heavy splash behind me, and my brain immediately offered me a gator because that's what brains do. They'd rather you fear something familiar than something you can't name. I didn't look back. I kept crawling, one hand on the bank, the other feeling ahead for the next lie in the ground. The smell got worse in waves. Some breaths tasted like metal. Some tasted like bitter plastic. My eyes burned so bad I had to blink hard just to keep them open. I started thinking I'd pass out and tip forward and that would be it. Not dramatic, just face down, choking, and nobody would know where to start looking because I'd stormed out without telling anyone exactly where I was going. That thought hit like a punch, and for a second I hated myself more than I hated the swamp. I crawled until my shoulders cramped and my hands went numb. I dragged the backpack behind me because I couldn't stand the idea of losing it. Then I caught myself and almost laughed at how dumb that was. I ripped it off and shoved it ahead, then crawled after it because quitting isn't in me even when quitting makes sense. The strap snagged on a root and jerked my bad knee sideways and I screamed without meaning to. It came out thin and ugly, swallowed by smoke. I untangled it with shaking hands, bit down on my own sleeve to stop from yelling again, and kept going. Then the air shifted. The sting eased for half a second, like someone cracked a window in a burning room. I sucked that air in and it still hurt, but it didn't knife me. I followed that change like it was a rope, crawling toward it on instinct. A few more feet and the surface under my hands felt different, thicker roots, tighter mat, not sagging. I pulled myself up onto it and just sat there, hunched, coughing in my sleeve. My lungs felt bruised. My throat felt peeled. My bare foot throbbed from cold and heat fighting each other. I tried the radio again, out of pure spite. Dead. I tried the phone again, held it up like a prayer. Nothing. I looked down and watched the save patch. It was steaming, not from sun, from underneath. Thin wisps rose out of the damp soil like breath. A few feet away, the mat I'd stepped on earlier sagged on its own and slid into the black water with a soft gulp. No flames, no noise, just the land giving up. I sat there and realized how quiet it was. No frost, no barges, no insects singing. Just my breathing and that low hum I could feel more than hear. The swamp kept burning under itself, quiet as a secret, like it didn't give a shit whether I made it out. I volunteered with a small search group after a hiker didn't come back. We entered at dusk because that's when the last ping hit. The swamp swallowed light fast. My headlamp showed a thin tunnel. Everything outside it moved when wind hit Spanish moss. I only said yes because my buddy pushed it. He likes being the guy who shows up. He likes posting about it later. At the trailhead, he acted like it was a job, like we were some kind of team. We weren't. It was a handful of locals with taped-up flashlights, cheap radios that cut out when you turned your head, and that thin, nervous energy people get when they're doing something scary, but try to call it helping. The family stood by a pickup with the tailgate down. They didn't cry. They just watched us check batteries and tie tape rolls to our belts. That look on the mom's face made me feel like a thief. Like I was about to walk into the woods and come back empty, and she'd have to swallow that too. The guy leading us kept it simple. Stay on a flag line. Don't split. Don't go chasing sounds. If you see something, mark it, call it, don't touch it. He said it like he'd had to drag bodies out before and didn't want another volunteer turning into a second search. We stepped in and the world tightened. The trees leaned together and the air turned heavy and sour. My light hit trunks, then moss, then nothing. The path existed for maybe a minute at a time before it dissolved into muck. Every step made that soft suck like the ground was trying to keep your boot. My buddy walked point, of course. He kept his shoulders squared like that mattered. I stayed close enough to grab his pack if he went down, because one bad step in a swamp isn't just falling. It's twisting an ankle and realizing you can't see your own feet anymore. We followed the last known ping area on a GPS app that lagged and spun like it was drunk. The leader had said the last signal hit right before dusk yesterday, same time we were walking in now, which made my skin prickle. Like we were syncing up with whatever happened. We heard footsteps behind us. Slow, matching. I stopped, held my breath. The footsteps stopped too. At first I told myself it was another pair from our group, maybe off angle, maybe catching up. But there was no light back there. No radio chatter. Just that careful, measured step, like whoever was knew exactly how much noise to make. Then a splash sounded to my left, close enough to feel. I swung my light and saw nothing but ripples spreading under ferns. I reached out and grabbed my buddy's pack strap to slow him. He yanked forward like I'd insulted him. He shook me off like I was embarrassing him. He hated looking scared. I snapped at him to stop for 1 second and listen. He hissed back that I was jumping at nothing, that the missing guy was the only thing that mattered, and if I wanted to get spooked, I should have stayed home. He said it low but sharp, like he needed to cut me down before I made him feel something he didn't want to feel. We kept going, but he sped up out of spite. I had to lengthen my stride to stay with him, and that pissed me off because speeding up in that terrain is how you eat shit. I grabbed his strap again, harder. He half-turned, eyes wide, not calm wide, pissed wide, and he mouthed, "Don't." I wanted to tell him to go fuck himself. I didn't. I just stayed on him. 10 minutes later, I heard his voice call my name from ahead. Same lazy tone he uses when he wants you to hurry up, but doesn't want to admit he needs you. I moved faster without thinking. Then I heard the same voice call my name from behind. Not louder, not distorted, same pitch, same little roughness, like it came out of the same throat. My stomach dropped, my mouth opened on reflex, and I forced it shut so hard my teeth clicked. I didn't answer. I didn't even look back right away because I didn't trust what my eyes would invent. I stared at the back of my buddy's pack and made myself count steps like a psycho. 1, 2, 3, tape a tree. 1, 2, 3, tape another. Anything to keep my brain from sprinting off a cliff. My buddy glanced over his shoulder and saw my face. He slowed a little, annoyed, like I was ruining his "I'm fine" act. He muttered something about me being dramatic. Then his light wobbled and he stopped pretending. Because he'd heard it too. I could see it in the way his shoulders locked up. I tried the radio. My thumb slipped on the button because my hand was sweaty and shaking. Static spat back. No voice. I tried again, and the radio crackled once with a laugh that didn't belong to any of us. It wasn't big. It wasn't movie crazy. It was small, like somebody breathed a chuckle right into the mic quick. Mean. Like a reaction. My buddy's jaw tightened, and he did that thing where he tries to act angry instead of scared. He swung his light in a fast arc, like he could catch someone. He hissed my name, like this was my fault for noticing. I grabbed his strap again, and this time he didn't shake me off. He just kept walking, but slower, careful now, like he finally remembered the ground wanted to eat him. We reached a spot where the path narrowed between two cypress knees. The vegetation forced us into single file again. The air smelled worse there, like old rot and something metallic underneath. My light caught a low stump and something on top of it that didn't belong. We found his hat on a stump. It sat there wet and crushed, brim bent, like someone set it down and forgot to pick it up. It wasn't dramatic. It was just wrong. My buddy reached for it immediately, barehanded, because he can't help himself. I slapped his wrist down. He jerked back like I'd hit him. He started to argue, whispering harsh, calling me paranoid, calling it just a hat. I shoved a plastic bag into his hand and told him if he touched it with his skin, I'd tell the leader he contaminated evidence. That shut him up because he hates looking stupid more than he hates being scared. We marked the stump with tape and radioed it in. The leader's voice came back clipped, told us to hold where we were, told us not to move off the line, told us another pair was coming to our position. My buddy rolled his eyes anyway, like rules were for other people. He kept scanning the ground like he wanted to find something he could control. And then we did. We found his footprint step off the path in shin-deep water and then vanished like the swamp erased them. The prints were clear at first. You could see the tread, the angle, the weight shift. A real person walked there. They headed straight off the path into dark water, and then nothing. No drag, no stumble, no sign of climbing out. Just blank surface and plants leaning in like they'd been brushed aside and then put back. My buddy took one step toward the last print, like he was going to follow. I grabbed the back of his jacket and yanked him so hard he stumbled. He spun on me, furious, and I felt my own temper finally snap because I was done babysitting his ego in a place that could swallow us. I told him, low and ugly, that if he stepped off the line, I'd leave him. I didn't say it as a threat to be tough. I said it because I meant it, because I could already picture both of us stuck and nobody finding us until morning when the bugs were done with our faces. He shoved me once, not enough to knock me down, just enough to say, "Don't talk to me like that." Water splashed my shin. I shoved him back, not proud of it, but it happened. The swamp made everything smaller and meaner. There was no space to cool off, no place to walk away, just darkened breath, and that sense we were being listened to. And right then, from ahead, I heard his voice call my name again. Calm, patient, like a guy leaning around a corner in a hallway. My buddy froze. He looked forward, then back at me like he wanted me to explain it. Like I was the one throwing my voice through trees. Then from behind us, the same voice did it again. Same name, same tone, a perfect copy. My buddy finally whispered, "Answer it," like it was an order, like answering would solve it. I shook my head hard. I kept my mouth shut. I stared at the last footprint disappearing into the water and felt my throat tighten because I suddenly understood how easy it would be to follow something you recognize. How easy it would be to take one more step just to make the voice stop calling. The radio crackled again, and this time it wasn't words. It was static that rose and fell like breathing, then a soft tapping noise like somebody clicking a fingernail on the mic. Click, click, click. My buddy's face went pale in my beam. He muttered, "Fuck this," under his breath, not loud enough to be brave, just honest. We held position like the leader told us to, but holding didn't mean still. We kept shifting our feet because standing there felt like waiting for something to walk up behind us and place a hand on our shoulders. My buddy kept lifting his light, then lowering it like he didn't know where to look anymore. When the other pair finally came up, I felt relief for about 2 seconds until I realized I couldn't tell if their footsteps were the same ones we'd heard earlier. I watched their lights bob through the moss like I didn't trust my own eyes. The leader's voice came over radio again, asking for confirmation, asking for coordinates, telling everyone to widen the sweep but stay in pairs. We searched until dawn. We did it methodically, and it still felt pointless. We swept around the stump. We traced the edge of the water where the prints vanished. We poked at the mud with sticks. We called out the hiker's name in short bursts, not shouting, not begging, just doing the thing you do so you can say you did it. Every time a bird flapped or a branch snapped, my body jerked. Every time the swamp made a little movement sound, my brain tried to turn it into my buddy's voice. At one point, I heard my name again, softer, close, like someone standing just outside the beam of my headlamp. I clenched my jaw and kept walking. My buddy kept glancing at me, waiting for me to react so he could blame me for making it real. When gray light finally seeped into the trees, it didn't feel like rescue. It just made everything look worse. You could see how easy it was to get turned around. You could see how the path could disappear under a few inches of water and leave you stepping into nothing. You could see how a man could walk off a trail, chasing a sound, and never come back. We found nothing else. No phone, no buck, no body, just that hat, those footprints, and the fact that two grown men stood there hearing the same voice from two directions and didn't have a clean explanation that didn't make us sound insane. I walked out with wet socks and dry mouth, hearing his voice in every splash for weeks after. I worked a seasonal job clearing trash from the old canal edges. Quiet work, just me, a John boat, and a pole. County gig, low pay, no benefits, and a supervisor who treated the whole place like a liability waiting to happen. He'd bark at us in the mornings about staying visible, staying on the main stretch, and not messing with the camps. That last part always came with a glare at me, like I was the kind of idiot who'd poke a hornet nest just to see if it was alive. I took it because I needed the check, and because being alone all day felt better than being trapped in a store with people. Most days were the same. Hook a bag, drag it in, curse when it tore, toss it into a pile, keep moving. Around noon, I saw a tarp roof tucked back in the trees, too clean to be driftwood, too straight to be chance. It sat higher than the brush line, corners pulled tight like someone built it on purpose and maintained it. I should have turned around. I didn't. Curiosity always lies and says it's harmless. I told myself I wasn't going in. I was just checking the edge for dumped junk, just doing my job, just making sure nothing was in the water that would snag the boat later. I eased in with the pole, motor idling low, and the whole pocket went quiet like my engine got swallowed. The air smelled like hot mud and old plastic. My skin prickled, and I kept glancing at the bank, not seeing anyone, then feeling stupid for being jumpy. Then the brush shifted, a dry crack of a branch under weight, and the stupid part of my brain shut up. A man stepped out with no fishing gear and no pack. He held a machete like it was normal. He didn't shout. He just watched my hands and the boat, like he was measuring how fast I could leave. He was close enough that I could see sweat salt on his shirt and dirt under his nails, and he looked calm in a way that made my stomach turn. No surprise, no fear, no curiosity back at me, just that calm. I backed my boat with the pole, keeping it casual like I was doing a slow turn. The pole caught on something heavy. A chain. I felt it through the aluminum and into my wrist, that dead stop that isn't rock or wood. My boat swung sideways, pinned, the stern drifting toward the bank while the bow pointed out. Useless. The man smiled and walked closer on the bank, calm, like he'd done this before. Not a grin, more like a small lift at the corner of his mouth, like my panic was familiar. I yanked the pole up, tried to unhook it, and it scraped metal again, still stuck. I pushed down and the chain held. My mind went fast and stupid. If I jumped out, I'd be in muck and weeds and I'd be slower than him. If I sat there, he'd get to decide what happened next. I glanced at my anchor rope and hated myself because I'd tossed the anchor earlier to steady the boat while I snagged tire. One more thing keeping me where I was. I dug my knife out with shaking fingers, a cheap folding blade I used for rope and tape, and my hands felt like they belonged to someone else. The man kept his eyes on my hands, not my face, like the hands mattered more. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ugly, and I tried to swallow it down. I sliced the anchor rope. It didn't cut clean at first, so I sawed and cursed under my breath until the fibers snapped. The boat lurched and rocked hard. For a second, I thought I was going over. I shoved off with the pole again, not elegant, just force, and the hull scraped through weeds as it finally slid free of whatever angle the chain had me in. I slapped the motor to life, and it coughed once like it wanted to stall at the worst possible moment, then caught. I cranked the tiller and gunned it, the prop chewing and pulling me out like a leash snapped. I heard something hit the water behind me. Maybe a rock, maybe a warning. I didn't look back. Looking back felt like giving him a piece of me. I ran the motor wide open until my fuel line rattled and the whole boat vibrated like it was going to shake apart. I clipped a floating log and took the jolt in my teeth and kept going anyway. Every bend looked like another trap. Every shadow on the bank looked like another person. By the time I hit the ramp, my legs were rubber, like my body waited for a familiar place before it started shaking. Two guys were fishing, laughing at something normal as hell, and wanted to grab them and drag them into my panic so I wouldn't be alone with it. Instead, I hauled the boat onto the trailer fast, winch screaming, strap biting my palm, eyes flicking to the trees every 2 seconds. Nobody came out. That should have helped. It didn't. When I walked around to latch the hitch, I saw it. A strip of orange tape tied to my trailer hitch. Not mine. It was clean, fresh, looped neat, the kind of tape crews used to mark stuff like someone wanted it to be noticed. My stomach dropped hard. It wasn't just a prank. It was a message. I was close enough to touch your shit. I ripped it off and crumpled in my fist until my knuckles hurt. Then I did the dumbest thing and checked under the truck like I'd find him crouched there. Nothing. Just heat shimmering off the pavement and my own heartbeat in my ears. I sat in the cab and stared at the orange wad in my hand, trying to decide if I was about to be the guy who calls 911 and gets laughed at later. I called the non-emergency line anyway, because my pride didn't feel worth much right then. I got a board recorded menu, got put on hold, listened to tinny music, and the longer I waited, the more stupid I felt, like fear had an expiration date. When someone finally picked up, the questions came fast and flat. Did he touch you? Did he threaten you? Did you see a weapon? Where exactly? And I could hear the part where this was going to turn into paperwork they didn't want. I said machete. I said chain. I said he tagged my hitch. The voice told me, like it was nothing, that if nobody was hurt, I should file a report online, and if I saw him again, I should leave the area. Like leaving was some magical solution. I hung up and sat there shaking, furious, because now I had the official version of it. Nothing happened. I called my supervisor because I needed someone to take it seriously, even if that someone was an asshole. He answered annoyed, like I was interrupting lunch. I told him about the tarp, the man, the machete, the chain. He went quiet for a beat, then snapped that I shouldn't have gone near it, that he told me to stay on the main stretch, that I was going to get the county sued or get myself killed. I said there was a fucking chain set up like a trap and someone tagged my hitch. He said, real flat, that I should finish my route and stop making drama. And if I didn't feel safe, I could clock out and he'd find someone else who isn't so curious. That pissed me off enough that the fear turned into heat. I told him if he sent someone else in there without warning them, he'd be doing it on purpose. He hung up on me. One of the fishermen wandered closer and made a crack about me looking like I saw a damn alligator. I told him to mind his own business. He got offended, started mouthing off, and for a second, I actually argued back, loud and sharp, because arguing about something stupid felt safer than thinking about a man with a machete watching my hands. Then he walked away shaking his head, and I stood there alone again, feeling small and stupid and furious. I drove out of there fast, tires spitting gravel, and I kept checking my mirrors like a tick. Every car behind me felt too close. Every turn felt like I was leading someone somewhere. I took a couple extra turns, doubled back once, just to see if anyone stayed on me. Nobody did. That didn't calm me down. It made it worse, because it meant he didn't need to follow right then. He already proved he could reach me without chasing. I stopped at a gas station on the way home just to get under bright lights and cameras, and I walked around the truck again like a paranoid idiot, checking the trailer, the straps, the hitch, the bed. People looked at me like I was on something. I didn't care. The orange tape stayed in my pocket, sweaty and crumpled like a dirty receipt. At home, I backed into my driveway so I could leave fast. I sat in the truck for a full minute with my hands on the wheel, jaw locked, listening to nothing, waiting for footsteps, for a knock, for anything that would confirm what my body already believed. I checked the hitch again like the tape might come back by itself. I went inside and dropped the tape on the counter and just stared at it because it felt insane that something so small could flip me inside out. I washed my hands twice and still felt dirty. I kept picturing that chain catching the pole, the boat swinging sideways, how easy it was for my whole day to flip into a problem I couldn't solve. That night, every passing headlight felt like it slowed near my house. Every creak felt like weight on my porch. I didn't sleep right. I didn't tell friends. I didn't want their jokes or their advice or their fake concern. I just replayed the calm on his face like he'd done it before and would do it again, and the neat orange tape like a little receipt. I drove home with my jaw locked, checking mirrors because the swamp didn't feel like wilderness anymore. It felt owned.